so happy we alive.
Good evening, and welcome to Louisville Late Night. This evening,
integration is something that we've struggled with forever, and providing a continuum of care so when people go to get their food stamps, they're also getting their substance abuse counseling, and they're also getting their welfare counseling, and they're also getting their job training all in the same building. And I think that a lot of that's going on in these cannabis facilities, and people go to get their medicine, but they stay because they feel supported and they feel like they're getting something out of it besides just the cannabis. And that's what I really want to get into academia. That's what I really want to get into the journals, and that's what I really want to get into the public. Because I think once the public sees the benefits of these facilities and what's really going on, that it's not only going to benefit the medical cannabis community, but it's going to benefit the rest of the health and social service community because we can learn from each other. So thank you, and I'll take any questions if we have any time. Questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, for coming and talking and presenting your important work. I hope that you continue it. Work like this helps to explain what's happening inside of these places that are not seen by most of America. I host a UC Berkeley political science class once a semester that comes to my office and has visited there for 8-9 years. It's called Unseen America. And it's one of the most popular site visits that the class takes, actually. We used to actually tour them through our dispensary and show them live plants and what it looked like. And since then, the word has gotten out, and every semester they have renewed their visit. So it just goes to show you that there are interested minds out there that don't know very much about this and want to be educated. And it's work like that that helps to educate them and helps to spin them in the right direction, that this is something that's going to be different from what you thought it was. We were going to have Richard Lee talk briefly, representing Oakland. He's ceded his time because of the late time of our unannounced panel. And we're going to move right into Martin Martinez, who is a patient advocate from Washington State area. He's going to talk about his activities up there.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a question for Amanda. Can I get a copy of this information?
Yeah.
A lot to go with. I have been, real briefly, I've been a patient since 1996 when I was hit by a car while riding a motorcycle in Los Angeles, Orange County. And so technically I'm a California medical marijuana patient originally, but I've spent most of my time in Seattle, most of my life. I was arrested in 96, just before Prop 215, and I presented a medical marijuana defense. Over the course of 2 years, I had a trial and a couple of arrests, and we developed the medical marijuana law in Washington through, partially through my ordeal as a testament to what is wrong with the prevailing picture at the time. At that time, after I was released from my legal obligations, I had been involved with the Green Cross patient co-op quite a bit there at that time, but I left Washington and became a member of the Oakland group with Jeff Jones, and I was one of the 14 patients who asked for permission from the high and mighty Supreme Court if we could please stay alive a little longer. And now we have Angel with these same a little bit more refined arguments. We're still here hoping that we're going to ultimately prevail in the Supreme Court in the U.S. At least, if not that, we're going to get Congress to do their job and represent the people who support medical marijuana, which apparently is fast. I have some experience with the co-ops and the patient dispensaries, but my experience is a little bit more specific. What we have here with the co-op situation is a group of people who support each other, and the information that we've just seen shows a vast range of the applications of people who are providing cannabis and all of its associated features and applications, and there's a great social network here in California which is very refreshing in Washington, society is a little bit less open about this subject, obviously. I spent about 4 years here in the Bay Area and worked with Jeff a little bit and returned to Washington around 2000, just before the Supreme Court pointed their fingers at us and said, no, no, no. And things have gone a bit downhill from there. Politically, unfortunately, a lot of people, from my experience, officials and administrators have taken the news blips as policy flags, and where there was a growing openness in Washington during the prevailing Bush years earlier, conservatives had a much greater voice in policy, I think. However, at Green Cross, where it is not technically legal under state law to dispense marijuana from one person to another, Green Cross is tolerated. Green Cross has boasted 2,000-3,000 patients at least. It's hard to say. It's a large group affiliated network. A co-op situation, the word co-op, of course, cooperative comes from farming, where farmers join together to market and share their products. But in Washington, this is technically not allowable, even though it's tolerated. Instead, when I returned to Washington, I decided that we were going to have a medical marijuana group that would be entirely legal under the existing state law. There are flaws in the law, which I don't need to go into right now, except its contrast. But the real contrast I want to show here is the difference between a cooperative, which is a buyers and sellers technically network, and a cooperative, which is also a word derived from farming. But in a cooperative, in a collective, people don't join together to market their wares, they actually farm together. And so what we have with a collective is a bunch of patients who are trying to help each other. And our motto has been patients helping patients since about the year 2000 with the Life Fine group in Washington. The amount of social services offered that we're seeing in Amanda's information is wonderful. And again, it's refreshing that there is such a great social network. However, the practical fact of trying to be a self-sustaining group of medical marijuana patients without non-patients involved is quite a work-intensive ordeal. Let me explain also that the medical marijuana law in Washington is a bit more specific and limited than here in the state of California. In Washington, the list is short and not very sweet. If you're on the medical marijuana list in the state of Washington, you're probably very, very ill. And this, of course, leaves out a great deal of the people who are less sick here in California, who are patients but are not necessarily terminally or severely intractably ill, who are able to perform a lot of the functions which we simply don't have in the pool of patients in Washington. People are generally very ill, cancer and AIDS, of course, and intractable pain is technically unrelieved by other medications. That means you're very, very ill. So we have a more difficult time providing for the group, and therefore Life Fine itself is vastly smaller than any of the major 219 groups you have here in California. It's just not possible to, from my experience, a self-sustaining medical marijuana group without a lot of strong, healthy people to do a lot of the work, so dirt to mix. We're not hydroponic for the quality reasons. We find better quality with soil, but of course it's a lot of work. And